So hi, this is Jonathan J. Let me explain a little about the video that you're about to watch. So a couple of months ago, a client engaged me to speak at an event near Amsterdam, and part of the deal was that he would fly me there and back by private jet. So I was going to have some empty seats. I put a message out on LinkedIn saying who would like to join me. Hundreds and hundreds of people said that they would like to come along, and we selected 4 business owners at random. These were business owners who are clearly interested in acquisitions and buying businesses, and we went over for the day together, and we spent the flight there and back talking about buying businesses. They were in the audience during my presentation, and what you're going to be seeing now is the little follow-up, the lead-up, I should say, to arriving at the venue, and then you're going to see just about all of my 20-25 minute presentation. Then you'll see us flying on the way back, and I hope you enjoy it. So that means no upfront cash requirement whatsoever. Now, because of the types of businesses that we're buying, they're nursery businesses, and the environment's important, we're investing into the environment. So we're spending money on refurbs and redecoration. Like in one of them, overnight, they completely refurbed the kitchen, took out the old kitchen, put the new kitchen in, but it was in a really dire state, and a kitchen is really important in a nursery. It needs to be hygienic and all of these things. So we're investing money in things like that, but we get our money back by being able to increase the fees, because now it's a more desirable environment, and occupancy goes up, because when you show parents around, you say, look, we've just put in a brand new kitchen, it sends just the right signals, exactly what a parent wants to hear. But from an acquisition perspective, we haven't gone and borrowed money from the bank. We haven't had to use our own funds. It's been done without any money. It's always nice round numbers. So I was talking to someone yesterday morning, and they want 2 million for their group of nurseries. And I was trying to get to the bottom of where the 2 million figure comes from. Yeah. And they said, oh, it's to do with the profitability of the company. And I said, okay, so how much profit did the company make? And they didn't know. If you get your business model right, self-storage is great, and children's homes. So a kind of, people don't often think of children's homes, but you've got nurseries, you've got care homes, but children's homes, again, I had a client actually a couple of years ago who was into children's homes, and that was very good as well. You can do a lot of good, because we're turning nurseries that haven't had any TLC for years into really beautiful locations. I mean, it's good for the kids, it's really good, because some of the ones that we bought, I wouldn't want to send my daughter there. So my property investor clients are going to pull this off. They're going to make this happen without using any of their own cash. They're going to repay the bridging as quickly as possible by refinancing the property onto commercial mortgages. A lot easier to refinance a property that you own than to get finance to buy a property that you don't own. Yeah. And that's the beginning of their care home empire. I'm speaking at a conference today for just about 1,000 people who are interested in buying a business. I'm the only British speaker, and I'm doing my session in English, where everyone else is doing their session in Dutch. So it's going to be interesting. I might have to take it a little bit slower than usual, and I've only got 25 minutes. Thank you. I do love an introduction where I don't know a word of what is being said. She could have been saying anything about me. I hope it was all very flattering. So in the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to show you some of the things that we do over in the UK to buy businesses without using any of our own cash. And the techniques and the strategies that I'm going to be showing you are in fact techniques and strategies that you can use anywhere in the world. And I have spent the last 23 years buying and selling businesses. And I spend 1 day a week at the moment teaching other business owners how to do this, and the other 4 days buying businesses. And at the moment, we're averaging one business every 10 days. So one business acquisition on average every 10 days. And the interesting part of all of these acquisitions is that we're not spending any of our own money. So the question to you is, if you could buy a business without spending any of your own money, would you do it? And if you could do it and you knew how to do it, how many businesses would you buy if you didn't have to spend your own money? All of them, right? As many as you could, because why wouldn't you? Now, when we buy a business, we're solving 4 problems. The first problem that we're going to solve is the growth problem. So the growth problem in any and every business is that you reach a certain point and the business hits a plateau. It doesn't seem to grow any faster. So you run more Facebook ads, you do Instagram, you hire more salespeople, and whatever you do, the business just doesn't seem to grow. And if you are entrepreneurial, that is a very frustrating situation to be in, because you're stuck with a business that just isn't exciting anymore. So when we buy a business, we solve that growth problem. So let me give you an example. Let's say that it's taken you 5 years to get to £5 million, euros of sales. And you're kind of stuck at that plateau and you want to get to 7 million. You want to get to 10 million, to 15, to 20 million. Now you can do that via organic growth. More salespeople, more advertising. Or you can say to yourself, let's find a business that does 3 million in sales, 5 million, 7 million, 10 million. Let's buy that business and suddenly we've doubled the size of our company overnight. So we can solve the growth problem via acquiring companies that are the same size or larger than our own, and we can get that growth in the next 12 months rather than waiting for years for it to happen. So we can solve that growth problem very, very quickly. The second problem that we can solve via acquisition is the speed problem. Now, if you're anything like me, I look in the mirror in the morning and I don't see a face that's getting any younger. And I'm in a hurry. I want to do things now. I don't want to wait years and years and years. And if you spent years building a company and you feel the same way as me, you want to get that growth as quickly as possible. You don't want to wait years. Well, how long does it take to buy a business? Well, people have different opinions about how long it takes to buy a business, but in terms of the number of hours that you, as the principal of the inquiring business, put into it, maybe hours on the phone, on emails, on meetings, the answer depends on whether you have a process. You see, if you have a process to buy a business, then it's an awful lot faster than if you don't have a process. You see, if you don't have a process, you make it up as you go along. You think about it all the time. You use trial and error. You make mistakes. You take one step forward, two steps back. And I think that if you don't have a process, it's going to take you at least 100 hours to buy a business. But if you do have a process, then we can shortcut this 100 hours, follow the process, and I have been averaging 20 hours of time to buy a company. That's 20 hours of me on the phone, emails, and meetings. I outsource all of the accountancy. I outsource all of the due diligence. I outsource all of the legal work because that's not my skill set. I'm not qualified to do that. Let me tell you what I do as a business buyer. I set the strategy. What types of businesses are we going to buy? How many of them are we going to buy? When are we going to buy them? I then do the deal sourcing. The deal sourcing is looking for the right businesses to buy. Now, something which I think you should bear in mind is your success as a business buyer is partly going to depend upon what we call deal flow. Deal flow is how many deals you have in your pipeline. Now, if you've only got one deal in your pipeline, don't you think the pressure is on to make that happen? You feel a certain amount of pressure to make that deal happen? Well, you don't want to be that person who's under pressure. So if you can develop a pipeline of deals, if you can develop deal flow, then it does several things. It makes you an outstanding negotiator. You see, if you've got deal flow, and that deal starts to not look like the best deal or the deal you don't want to do, you can walk away. You can say no. If you've only got one deal in your pipeline, you can't say no because all that hard work is going to go to waste and you're back where you started. Right now, I've got 153 companies in my deal pipeline. 153. Some I haven't spoken to yet. They've contacted me about me buying their business, but I haven't spoken to them. We couldn't get hold of them for some reason. They're on holiday or whatever. We've got some that we're getting to the point where we're thinking we're not sure if we really want to do this. Is it the best deal? We don't think so. We're not sure. Some that we're speaking to, we're on first meetings, second meetings, third meetings with, and some that we're at legals with. See, when you've got 153 businesses, you can say no very easily because it doesn't matter because there's always another deal. Does that make sense? But if you look at 6 businesses, all in the same sector, and you compare their financials and you meet 6 owners, you can start to decide which are the better businesses that fit your strategy, fit your personality, and fit the outcomes that you want. So I spend my entire week talking to business owners and meeting business owners face to face to find the right deals. But if I only had one deal in my pipeline, I couldn't do that. 153, constantly replenishing, I never run out of deals. So the first problem that we're solving is the growth problem. The second problem is the speed problem, because we can buy a business in the next 6 months and double the size of our existing company. The third problem that we're going to solve is the hassle problem. The hassle problem is that typically when you have a business and you are the operator of that business, there's a lot of hassle in your life. And where does the hassle come from? From the people. Yeah, absolutely. It comes from the staff. Ironically, it comes from the people that you pay every month, create the hassle and the stress in your life. It's crazy, but it's true. So right now, with the businesses that we've bought in a particular sector over the last few months, we've got 120 staff. So we've got 120 people on payroll. They're in different parts of the UK, and I've only ever met 3 of them. And the 3 that I've met don't have my email address, they don't have my phone number, I don't have contact with them. You see, when you start buying businesses, you must be very, very careful that you don't create a job for yourself. Because then you just multiply the hassle factor. Now, in the particular sector that I'm buying in right now, which is children's day nurseries, so children's education from 18 months up to 4 years. I don't have any qualifications in that sector, so I had to hire people who do. So I've got an incredible management team that right now are in different parts of the UK dealing with hassle. They're dealing with builders and refurbs. They're dealing with the staff. We're at the last day of the month, right? When do staff typically quit their job? On the last day of the month, when they see the paycheck go into the bank, they quit on the last. So I know that somewhere in our portfolio of businesses, there are 1 or 2 resignations today. Now, if you're the person who receives the resignation letter or email, then that could spoil your weekend, couldn't it? Because you're now thinking of the hassle, you've got to hire more people and do the interviews. I don't even think about that. I sleep so well at night because the hassle is someone else's problem. See, the fourth problem that we're going to solve, so we've done growth, we've done speed, we've done hassle. The fourth problem we're going to solve is the money problem. Now, we might say all day long that we're in business because we love the business and we're passionate about the business, but we also want to make some money as well, don't we? We want to make a little bit of money along the way as well. In fact, some of us might want to make a lot of money along the way. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to make a lot of money. Why not? If you can add value, if you can buy businesses, if you can sell businesses, you deserve to make a lot of money. But what most operational business owners do is they turn up at the office every day, and at the end of the month they pay all the salaries, they pay all of the suppliers, and they see what's left over, and what's left over is theirs. And they say, well, it wasn't a very good month this month. But you don't worry about that because next month is going to be better. The optimism of the business owner that every month is going to be better than this month. Next month will be better. Next year will be better. But when you start thinking like a deal maker, when you start thinking as a business buyer, sure, all your staff get paid, all your suppliers get paid, but there's a lot more money for you to get paid as well. And the richest people in business are not the operational business owners who turn up every day. The richest people in business are the deal makers, are the private equity people, are the people who buy businesses and let other people have the hassle and the operational problems. They let other people deal with those details. They make the most money. So if you're going to be in business for the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, for the rest of your working life, then why not be in business in such a way that allows you to make the most money during that time? Believe me, your children will thank you for it. So we've solved the growth problem, we've solved the speed problem, we've solved the hassle problem, we've solved the money problem. So how do we do this? Well, there are 3 rules when buying a business. And these are the 3 rules that everything that we teach business owners hangs off of these 3 rules. So these are the 3 principles, if you like, of buying a business. And they're important principles because if you follow these principles, you de-risk every transaction. Let me tell you the last thing you should be doing when buying a business. And business brokers will disagree with me, but this is what I believe. I believe that when you buy a business, you should not be risking your family home. You should not be risking your life savings. You should not put everything on the line for one acquisition. So the first rule is, when we buy a business, we're going to buy a business either with no money down on completion or none of your own money in the deal. We're going to get other people to finance it, or we're not going to put any money in on completion. This is the complete opposite of what people in corporate finance tell you, where they say that you need to borrow the money and use your house as security and put everything on the line. You need to have skin in the game. Well, it's not their skin in the game, is it? It's your skin in the game. So rule number 1 is you're not going to use any of your own money. Rule number 2 is you're not going to borrow money from a bank. You see, if you go to a business broker to buy a business, they'll say, well, do you have any equity in your house? Borrow some money against that equity in your house and give that money to the seller of the business. They'll give you the shares of the business. You now own the business. They take all of your money and go off on the world cruise, which is wonderful for them, not so wonderful for you. So every transaction that we do, we de-risk the transaction to the point that if something does go wrong, it's not going to ruin our lives. And the third rule is this. The third rule is that when we buy a business, we never, ever manage it ourselves. Because if you manage it yourself, you'll run out of time, you'll run out of energy, you'll run out of patience, you'll start to hate it, and you'll wonder why you ever bought it. So we have a very aggressive growth plan in the UK in our sector. We'll have 30 transactions under our belt by the end of the first 12 months and 100 over the next 3 years. Physically, I could never manage that myself. It would be crazy. You have to have a management team to run it all for you. Otherwise, it will drive you mad. Does that make sense? So rule number 1, we don't use our own cash. Rule number 2, we don't borrow money from a bank. And rule number 3 is we don't manage the business ourselves. So let me give you some examples of how we fund an acquisition without using our own money. Would that be of interest to you? And I think I didn't completely understand all of the introduction earlier, but I gather that I'm coming back here at some point in November for a day where I'm going to be teaching this in a little bit more detail. But I'll give you a very quick rundown of a few of these methods. So the first type of business that we buy that doesn't involve any of our own cash is what we call a distressed business. Now you might think, why would you want to buy a distressed business? Because a distressed business has to have, by definition, problems. Why would you want to buy problems? Let me tell you why. What you think is a problem in your business, you think is an opportunity. What you think is a problem that you just cannot solve, you found the answer to years ago. You see, someone else's problems are not necessarily your problems. I like businesses where the business owner says, oh my goodness, all these problems, I'll just hand you the keys. Take the business from me because I don't want these problems anymore. And I look at those problems and I think to myself, I can solve those problems. Those are easy problems to solve. So that's the first type of business that we look for. Just to give you an example of this, a similar example. Yesterday, day before yesterday, 2 days ago, I agreed the purchase of 2 businesses, small businesses, total sales value per annum of about £850,000, so about 950,000 euros. And I'm buying both of those businesses for £1 each, so £1 each. Because the owners have reached the point where they are distressed. And as a result, the business hasn't performed very well recently, but they've got the sales there. They're just not running the business very effectively. So I take over the keys, I give them £1, and I own 2 businesses for £1 each. And I've got 900,000 euros in sales just like that. Sounds easy, right? Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that. You've got to understand how to do the due diligence and the legal work, but it can be done, and every single one of us can do this if we know how to do it, how to find the deals and how to structure them. So let me give you another example of a transaction that doesn't involve any money of my own. So there's a business that we're buying. The price that we've agreed for the business is this works, for example, with a larger business and a smaller business, doesn't make any difference. 2.3 million pounds. So 2.3 million pounds is what we are paying for the business. Now, in the balance sheet of the business, there is 1.6 million pounds of property. So we've agreed that on completion, the day that we take legal ownership, the owners will receive 1.6 million pounds for the property. So they'll walk away with 1.6 million pounds minus any debt that might be on the property. The balance of the 2.3 million, 700,000, is being paid for the business itself, for the business that produces a profit. And we've agreed a structure where we pay that £700,000 over a 5-year period. So here's a question. Where does that £700,000 come from? Does it come from your pocket? No. Does it come from the bank? It comes from the cash flow of the business that we're buying. In other words, the business is financing its own acquisition. Quick question for you. If you could buy a business where the business funds its own acquisition, how many businesses would you buy? As many as you could find where the funding for the acquisition comes from the business itself. So you may be asking yourself, Jonathan, you've missed out a very important part. What about the 1.6 million for the property? You've forgotten the 1.6 million for the property. Well, I don't want the property. I'm not interested in that commercial property. So I found a property investor who wants to buy the property. So it's his 1.6 million that goes to the sellers on completion. He buys the property, I rent the property from him. So I've just done a 2.3 million pound acquisition, and how much of my money went into the deal? Zero. But you might be thinking, Jonathan, you've got legal fees. You've got due diligence fees. You've got accountancy fees. You've got tax advice. Yep, I have. Do I pay those out of my own pocket? No, I don't. All of those invoices go to the company that I'm buying after I bought it, and that company that I'm buying pays all my fees. So how much money have I put into this deal? Absolutely zero. And this is what I do every day, every week, every month. And I spend 4 days a week doing this type of deal, finding them, putting the deals together, and I spend 1 day a week teaching it. And one of those days is going to be in Amsterdam in about 4 weeks' time. So this is what I do, this is how I do it. It's completely contrary to what a lot of people will tell you. A lot of people will tell you that you have to go and raise a lot of finance, you have to sign personal guarantees, use your property as security. See, the bottom line is, anyone can buy a business. All you've got to do is go and borrow the money, use your home as security, write the check, and give the money to the owner of the business, and they will give you the business in return. Anyone can do that. However, my suggestion, my slightly controversial suggestion, is that that would be a really stupid thing to do. Because you're going to run out of money. You're going to run out of, it doesn't matter how much money you've got, you're going to run out of money. So why don't we structure every deal that we do like I've just described, and then you can buy one business, 2 businesses, 3 businesses, 4 businesses, let someone else manage them, and you just enjoy the cash flow from those businesses every single month. And then, once you've got 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 businesses in the same sector, merge them into one larger business, sell it, and make millions of pounds in the sale. And that's what I've done time and time again over the years. And I hope you can too. Thank you very much. My time is up, and thank you for your attention. enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button and click here to watch more videos